In the previous episode, Luo Feng and Morosa arrived near a mysterious region outside Huyang City after sensing unusual activity. Morosa, who had long been eager for a real battle, asked whether Luo Feng needed his assistance. However, Luo Feng decided to investigate personally. Wanting to test his strength after becoming an eternal true god, Morosa remained behind, secretly hoping that the enemy would be powerful enough to force him into action as well. As Luo Feng approached the area, he noticed a flying boat carrying a small tribal group heading toward Huyang City. The vessel was led by a disheveled-haired clan leader, a void true god who had once lived in Huyang City and understood its dangers. During the journey, he instructed two talented young clan members, Suo Zi and Suo Yun, about life in the great city. He explained that Huyang City was filled with countless true gods, and even void true gods were considered ordinary there. He repeatedly warned them to remain humble and never display wealth or treasures, as doing so would attract deadly attention. Although Huyang City offered immense opportunities and resources, survival depended on caution and restraint. The young clan members listened eagerly. They dreamed of using the opportunities available in Huyang City to improve themselves and eventually become void true gods. The rest of the tribe also shared similar hopes as they traveled toward what they believed would be a brighter future. Suddenly, disaster struck. The clan leader sensed danger and immediately burned his divine body, releasing his full power to strengthen the flying boat's defensive formations. At that moment, 10 terrifying figures appeared and launched a coordinated attack. Their forces combined through a military formation, unleashing overwhelming destructive power against the vessel. The clan leader instantly recognized the attackers as elite military experts. Although he had experienced many dangers throughout his life, he knew this situation was hopeless. Even more shocking was the fact that the attackers themselves began burning their divine bodies from the very beginning, demonstrating their determination to end the battle quickly. The flying boat's defensive formations resisted for a short time, but the clan leader realized that survival was impossible. He sorrowfully informed his clansmen that they were likely going to die. Suo Zi and Suo Yun were especially devastated. They had never even reached Huyang City and were about to lose their lives before their journey truly began. The older members of the tribe were calmer, having spent years hunting exotic beasts and facing life and death situations. They accepted their fate. The clan leader gazed at his people with regret and prepared for death. Then everything changed. A dark-haired man with dark golden horns suddenly appeared outside the flying boat. The 10 attackers immediately recognized the newcomer and panicked. Realizing he was an eternal true god, they abandoned the assault and fled in terror. The clan leader reacted instantly, flying out of the flying boat and respectfully bowing to Luo Feng. Understanding that a battle between eternal true gods might soon occur, Luo Feng collected both the flying boat and its passengers, ensuring that they would not be harmed by the aftermath of the conflict. Luo Feng then turned his attention toward the distant source of immense energy. There, hidden in the shadows, stood a black-robed eternal true god. The moment Luo Feng looked in his direction, the concealed figure realized he had been discovered. The black-robed man attempted to avoid conflict by claiming that the area was merely his cultivation ground and politely requested that Luo Feng leave. However, Luo Feng had already detected the unmistakable aura of a rare heavenly treasure. Knowing that concealment was impossible, the black-robed eternal true god revealed himself completely. Internally, he was frustrated. The heavenly treasure he had discovered, the blue-purple blood crystal flower, was extraordinarily rare. Its flowering period lasted only 10 days, and he had carefully hidden himself in order to claim it without attracting attention. Unfortunately, Luo Feng's arrival threatened everything. The black-robed figure admitted that the treasure existed but insisted that he had found it first. He openly declared that anyone who attempted to compete for it would be killed. He hoped his threat would convince Luo Feng to retreat. However, he had completely misjudged his opponent. Luo Feng was in desperate need of treasures and resources. More importantly, after spending a long time without a worthy battle, he was eager to test his abilities against a powerful enemy. Instead of backing down, he immediately expressed his intention to compete for the treasure. The black-robed eternal true god sighed. He knew that the conflict could no longer be avoided. To eliminate all possible witnesses, he released a terrifying power. The 10 elite subordinates who had served him faithfully were instantly annihilated. They died in shock, unable to understand why their master had killed them. Luo Feng was surprised by this ruthless act. The black-robed figure calmly explained that anyone who learned about the existence of the blue-purple blood crystal flower had to die. Originally, he had intended to kill his subordinates after obtaining the treasure. Luo Feng's arrival merely forced him to act sooner. The black-robed eternal true god then demanded Luo Feng's name, believing that any eternal true god deserved at least that much respect before death. Luo Feng casually replied that there was no need to exchange names if one of them was about to die anyway. This response infuriated the black-robed figure. Although he had acted cautiously until now, he possessed tremendous confidence in his own strength. His cultivation had reached the eternal eighth realm, placing him among the strongest eternal true gods. He was none other than Duomo, an important figure responsible for overseeing major affairs in Huyang City. Convinced that Luo Feng was an arrogant newcomer who did not understand the gap between them, Duomo finally unleashed his prepared secret technique. A mysterious source of law was activated. Without warning, a black-silver conical spike materialized directly in front of Luo Feng. Covered in countless intricate secret patterns, the weapon radiated terrifying power. Its speed distorted space and even affected the flow of time. The spike slammed into Luo Feng's chest with explosive force. Although Luo Feng possessed a perfect divine body of incredible durability, the impact still forced him backward and caused the surrounding void to tremble violently. Before he could fully react, more spikes appeared, one after another. Black-silver spikes materialized around him. Some targeted his chest, others his head, face, back, and every possible vulnerable point. A total of 19 spikes surrounded him. Moving with flawless coordination, the attacks flowed continuously like an endless torrent, each strike seamlessly connecting to the next. The combined assault unleashed devastating destructive power, attempting to completely shatter Luo Feng's divine body. At the same time, every spike carried a strange and terrifying toxin born from the laws themselves. The poison spread through Luo Feng's divine body and attempted to erode his consciousness from within. For most eternal true gods, such an attack would have been a nightmare. Yet Luo Feng felt no fear. Instead, his eyes lit up with excitement. After so long without a true challenge, he had finally encountered an opponent capable of using such unusual and powerful techniques. The law-based toxins, the coordinated spike formation, and Duomo's immense strength all fascinated him. Rather than worrying about the danger, Luo Feng eagerly welcomed the battle, excited to see just how powerful this eternal Eighth Realm expert truly was. Luo Feng speculated that Duomo had mastered a rare source of laws related to deadly poison. In the land of origin, many eternal true gods refined the blood essence of exotic beasts and developed unusual talents, allowing them to control unique law sources. Duomo's poison was one of these abilities. As 19 blackwater cones attacked from every direction, Luo Feng was repeatedly struck, leaving numerous wounds across his body. However, his injuries healed instantly. The consumption of divine power was insignificant compared to the replenishment provided by his miniature universe, which spanned 100 billion light years. Duomo was shocked. His law poison was one of his greatest strengths, capable of destroying divine bodies and corroding consciousness. Weak opponents would die instantly, while even powerful cultivators would suffer severe losses in combat strength. Yet Luo Feng showed no signs of being affected. His perfect divine body completely resisted the poison's effects on the body. While the Star Tower protected his true god heart and his primal chaos level willpower prevented any damage to his consciousness. Mocking Duomo's poison, Luo Feng summoned the Bloodshadow Knife, a godly king-level weapon embryo. Although the blade appeared simple and dim, it emitted a faint blood-red glow. The moment he held it, the source of life and death resonated naturally with him. Countless gray blade lights emerged and swept across the battlefield, forcing back the incoming blackwater cones. Luo Feng then displayed the Blade of Life and Death, the first move of the inheritance world-breaking 9 blades. During his journey through the Samsara Channel, he had received numerous inheritances from Duan Dong River. Besides the mandatory inheritances Duan Mie and donghua, he had also selected the body refining technique Primal Chaos Great Strength Diagram, the Blade Art world-breaking 9 blades, and the Soul Inheritance 9 netherworlds. However, he had only recently become an eternal true god and had not yet had enough time to properly cultivate these inheritances. Of all the techniques available to him, He had only comprehended the first blade move, which perfectly matched the source of life and death under his control. Seeing Luo Feng remain unaffected by poison, Duomo abandoned subtle methods and revealed his true form. His body rapidly expanded into a gigantic monster covered in scales. He possessed 4 thick legs, a powerful torso, 8 muscular arms, and 3 enormous lizard-like heads. Each hand wielded a black spear. Toxic gas poured from his mouths and spread across the surrounding land, causing plants and vegetation within 10,000 miles to wither and die. Looking down from his mountain-like height, Duomo demanded to know why Luo Feng refused to reveal his true body. Luo Feng remained calm. He understood that most cultivators in the land of origin preferred humanoid forms because they followed the example of ancient supreme beings who revered the humanoid shape. However, when serious combat began, most eternal true gods had to reveal their original forms to fully unleash their power. Luo Feng was different. His perfect divine body could freely expand or shrink without losing any combat effectiveness, making a transformation unnecessary. Enraged, Duomo charged forward. His massive body crossed vast distances in a few strides while the 8 black spears descended like a storm. Luo Feng transformed into a streak of gray blade light and rushed forward to meet him. The clash shook the battlefield. Luo Feng's blade carried the mysteries of life and death, amplified by the Bloodshadow knife and the immense divine power contained within his perfect divine body. Although he had only recently become an eternal true god, the strength of his attack was already astonishing. Duomo's spears were equally terrifying. After countless years of cultivation and enormous investments of resources, he had reached the eternal 8th realm. Every strike reflected his profound foundation and experience. Their weapons collided repeatedly. Luo Feng and Duomo were both forced back, demonstrating that neither held an overwhelming advantage in direct power. Duomo acknowledged Luo Feng's strength but immediately unleashed the true power of the Black Sky Spear technique. The 8 spears began moving in perfect harmony, forming a terrifying battlefield filled with spear shadows. The coordination between the weapons multiplied their effectiveness far beyond ordinary attacks. Luo Feng found himself increasingly pressured. Although the blade of life and death was powerful, it was the only advanced blade technique he had mastered. He repeatedly executed the same move while trying to withstand the increasingly complex spear formations. The battlefield seemed filled with endless spears crashing down from all directions. Luo Feng was struck repeatedly, sometimes stabbed directly, other times smashed into the ground. Duomo became suspicious. Luo Feng's divine body was unbelievably strong, yet his blade techniques appeared relatively simple. To Duomo, this contradiction suggested that Luo Feng was deliberately hiding his true abilities and waiting for an opportunity to counterattack. Determined to finish the battle, Duomo ignited his divine power. Flames of divine energy erupted around him, dramatically increasing his strength, speed, and overall combat capability. Luo Feng immediately responded by burning divine power as well. However, because he had not yet mastered the advanced divine power burning methods contained within Duomo, his enhancement was far less efficient. This discovery only deepened Duomo's confusion. Luo Feng possessed an extraordinary divine body and a godly king-level weapon embryo. Yet he seemed unfamiliar with even basic eternal true god techniques. Duomo could not understand how such a cultivator had reached this level. As the battle intensified, Luo Feng's condition worsened visibly. Duomo's attacks became increasingly powerful while Luo Feng was pushed entirely onto the defensive. Even so, Luo Feng appeared unconcerned. Far away, Morosa watched the battle in secret. Seeing his master repeatedly battered, he sent a telepathic message asking whether assistance was needed. Luo Feng refused. He wanted to personally experience combat against an eternal true god and use the battle as an opportunity to understand his own strength. Unable to kill Luo Feng through ordinary methods, Duomo finally revealed his ultimate technique. He activated the strongest move of the Black Sky Spear technique, all worlds as one. Burning divine power poured into all 8 spears. The surrounding world seemed to distort and merge together. Suddenly, a single spear appeared before Luo Feng, carrying enough force to split heaven and earth. The spear slammed directly into him, sending him hurtling downward. Before Luo Feng could recover, a second spear strike arrived, then a third, then a fourth. The attacks continued without pause. Thousands of devastating spear strikes descended in rapid succession. Luo Feng was unable to defend himself while falling. Instead, he could only rely on the resilience of his perfect divine body to endure the punishment. Endless destructive force flooded into his body, consuming divine power and driving him deeper into the earth. The impact devastated the surrounding region. Mountains collapsed. Forests were uprooted. Massive shockwaves spread across millions of miles. Exotic beasts throughout the area fell silent and cowered in fear. Even the exceptionally stable ground of the land of origin could not withstand the attack. A gigantic basin was blasted into the landscape. At the center of the crater lay Luo Feng. For a moment, everything became quiet. Then Luo Feng blinked. He calmly sat up from the bottom of the crater as if nothing significant had happened. Watching from afar, Morosa covered his eyes and remarked that his master had taken a severe beating. He once again offered help. But Luo Feng rejected the suggestion and simply looked upward. High above, Duomo stared down at him. Disbelief filled all three of his faces. He had unleashed his ultimate killing move, a technique capable of destroying even powerful eternal true gods, and had struck Luo Feng thousands of times without interruption. Yet Luo Feng remained alive. Not only alive, but seemingly capable of continuing the fight. For the first time during the battle, Duomo felt genuine shock as he looked at the tiny figure sitting calmly at the center of the enormous crater. After all worlds as one failed to defeat Luo Feng, Duomo immediately realized that trying to exhaust his opponent was impossible. That move had already consumed 1/10 of his divine power and unleashed thousands of spear strikes in a single breath. Yet Luo Feng had endured it, knowing he had no choice. Duomo activated the forbidden move of the Black Sky Spear technique. His divine power erupted violently as he instantly burned 50% of his godly body's power. Most eternal true gods would be unable to control such a massive amount of divine power. But Duomo condensed it perfectly into his strongest attack. His 8 spears moved simultaneously, and endless divine power flowed through them. The shadows of the spears merged into a colossal black pillar like phantoms stretching between heaven and earth, while Duomo himself fused into it. The forbidden move, Black Sky Destruction, descended from the sky. Watching the attack, Luo Feng sensed the destruction of all things and a faint trace of the primal chaos mindset within it. Rather than retreat, he felt excitement at facing such a powerful opponent. He raised his blade and met the attack head-on. The moment the two forces collided, a terrifying explosion erupted. The power contained within the black pillar rushed directly into Luo Feng's body. Even with his perfect divine body, he felt the overwhelming destructive force. A large portion of his divine power was instantly annihilated. Brilliant light burst from his body. Shockwaves spread in all directions, and countless wounds appeared across his flesh. Yet his godly body did not collapse. Duomo was stunned. His strongest forbidden move had consumed half of his remaining divine power, leaving him with only 30%. He no longer had enough strength to launch another attack of that level. As Luo Feng's wounds rapidly regenerated, he calmly looked at Duomo and asked, "Do you have any stronger moves?" The question shattered Duomo's confidence. Without any hesitation, he abandoned the battle and fled. Turning into a shadow, he tore through the night sky at full speed. The blue-purple blood crystal flower still needed several more days before it matured. So Duomo planned to return to Huyang City and request assistance from the experts of the Shi Kingdom branch there. With enough eternal true gods working together, he believed they could eliminate this mysterious opponent. Luo Feng merely glanced at the fleeing figure. An invisible fluctuation instantly spread outward. As Duomo escaped, he suddenly found himself trapped within an endless vortex of black mist. The terrifying vortex swallowed his consciousness and devoured his will. Although Duomo possessed exceptionally strong willpower from countless years of cultivation, it was completely overwhelmed. The power of the black mist nearly annihilated his will the moment it made contact. His body lost control. The giant figure appeared in midair, drew a long arc through the sky, and crashed heavily onto the ground like someone who had fallen asleep. Luo Feng stepped forward and arrived beside him. He knew that in direct close combat he had been at a disadvantage throughout the battle. The reason he had won was because of a willpower secret technique from the Inheritance 9 Netherworlds, Nightmare of the 9 Netherworlds. To help the primordial ancestor, Luo Feng had cultivated 9 netherworlds to the eternal true god level. The inheritance focused primarily on illusion techniques and contained 3 willpower secret techniques. Although they were far less sophisticated than the Lai Yuan technique, Luo Feng possessed a terrifying will at the peak of the primal chaos level. In his hands, even an ordinary willpower technique became extraordinarily dangerous. Looking down at Duomo, Luo Feng admitted that forcing him to use a willpower secret technique was already an impressive achievement. He then swung the bloodshadow knife. The blade pierced through Duomo's defenseless body and struck directly into his true god's heart. The heart shattered. Duomo died instantly while still trapped in the illusion. Far away in the night sky, one star dimmed. It was the sign that Duomo's small universe had begun collapsing. For the vast land of origin, however, the death of an eternal true god was little more than a tiny ripple among countless lives and deaths. After the battle, Luo Feng reflected on his own weaknesses. From beginning to end, he had relied mainly on the durability of his perfect divine body. He possessed no notable body-refining secret techniques, defensive secret techniques, movement techniques, or advanced combat methods. The only combat art he continuously used was the blade of life and death. His victory had come through endurance, not superior close combat skill. With Duomo dead, the aura concealing the blue-purple blood crystal flower disappeared. Its fragrance immediately began spreading through the surroundings. Luo Feng finally understood why an eternal true god had fought so desperately over it. With a thought, he used his invisible power to completely conceal the flower's scent and hide every trace of the battle. His concealment methods were far superior to Duomo's. Even if a true god passed nearby, they would detect nothing unusual. Soon afterward, Morosa arrived. Looking at Duomo's corpse, he immediately recognized that Luo Feng had once again relied on a willpower secret technique. The same kind of technique that had previously subdued him. Morosa commented that the battle had seemed completely one-sided, causing Luo Feng to glance at him. Realizing his mistake, Morosa quickly fell silent. His attention then shifted toward the treasures left behind. The 8-armed eternal true god had left behind a considerable collection of weapons and valuables. Luo Feng allowed Morosa to choose what he wanted. Morosa selected 2 black spears and immediately began testing them. Since he previously possessed no suitable eternal level weapon, obtaining the spears greatly increased his strength. He happily declared that his combat power would at least double. Thinking about future expenses in Huyang City, Luo Feng tossed Morosa a black-green jade vial. Inside were 122 grains of cosmic sand, 30.000 primal chaos crystals, and large quantities of primal chaos stones. According to the currency system of the land of origin, 1 grain of cosmic sand was worth 10.000 primal chaos crystals and more than 100 million primal chaos stones. Cosmic sand was considered the highest denomination of currency. Examining the spoils, Morosa noticed that Duomo had no armor. Luo Feng explained that eternal true god level armor was far more expensive than weapons. Most of Duomo's wealth had been invested in weapons and inheritance. The 8 spears alone were worth approximately 8.000 cosmic sand. The complete spoils included the 8 spears, worth around 8.000 cosmic sand. The 19 blackwater cones worth about 2.000 cosmic sand. Additional cosmic sand, large amounts of exotic beast materials, and various treasures. Altogether, the total value was estimated at roughly 15.000 cosmic sand. Morosa then greedily stared at Duomo's massive corpse and asked if he could have it. Luo Feng first examined the corpse and studied its bloodline. He discovered that the bloodline contained within Duomo was exceptionally powerful. This reminded him that bloodline cultivation methods were common throughout the land of origin. According to records left by mountain-sitting guest and the Duan River lineage, nearly half of all primal chaos overlords in the land of origin had reached that level through bloodline cultivation, while the other half had comprehended the primal chaos laws. However, among all godly kings, not one relied solely on bloodline cultivation. After completing his examination, Luo Feng handed the corpse to Morosa. Morosa immediately collected it and entered the Star Tower. Inside one of the tower's levels, he eagerly began devouring the corpse. The enormous divine power contained within it continuously flowed into him. As he absorbed the energy, Morosa considered it one of the finest meals he had enjoyed since his birth. Outside, Luo Feng sat cross-legged beside the blue-purple blood crystal flower and patiently waited. The flower's blooming period lasted only 10 days, and only a few days remained before it would mature and fall. Luo Feng was in an excellent mood because the value of the flower far exceeded all the treasures Duomo had left behind. Meanwhile, in Huyang City, the towering sky cloud tower rose high above the city. At its highest level sat Chairman Zan Yun, quietly observing the city hidden among the clouds. Suddenly, his expression changed. He took out an octagonal token that allowed him to sense the other eternal true gods belonging to the Shi Kingdom branch stationed in Huyang City. Through the token, he immediately noticed that one of the signals had disappeared. The token had been bestowed by the Marquis and normally maintained awareness of all members across the land of origin. A vanished signal almost always meant death. After confirming the source of the missing signal, Chairman Zan Yun was shocked. Duomo was dead. After losing contact with Duomo, Chairman Zan Yun immediately reported the matter to his superior using a secret technique that summoned a blood-red flame incarnation of a Marquis. The Marquis confirmed that Duomo's life token had shattered, proving he was dead, since Duomo had informed Zan Yun that he would arrive at Huyang City a few days late. The Marquis concluded that he must have died somewhere within Zhujiang Primal Chaos Prefecture. He ordered Zan Yun to investigate the cause of death. However, Zan Yun privately believed that anyone capable of killing Duomo must be an extraordinary expert and had no intention of personally risking his life to investigate. Meanwhile, Luo Feng reflected on his recent battle with Duomo. Although he had won thanks to his perfect divine body, he realized his close combat skills and secret techniques were still lacking. He understood that stronger opponents in the future could potentially trap or suppress him. To improve himself, he decided to focus on cultivating the Lai Yuan technique, strengthening his willpower, comprehending the primal chaos laws, and striving to break through to the primal chaos lord realm. He selected the body-refining secret techniques Primal Chaos Great Strength Diagram and World-Breaking 9 Blades as his primary cultivation paths while also practicing Duan Mie, donghua, and 9 Netherworlds. He noted that body refinement required enormous resources and hoped the blue-purple blood crystal flower would support his cultivation for some time. Inside the Star Tower, the rescued clan members remained trapped within a separate space. Unsure of Luo Feng's intentions, they speculated whether they might be used for experiments or medicine testing. The clan leader reassured everyone that Luo Feng had saved their lives and that serving such a powerful existence could be a rare opportunity rather than a misfortune. He advised everyone to wait patiently. Luo Feng spent 3 days cultivating beside the blue-purple blood crystal flower, gaining insights into several secret techniques. He also observed that a single day in the land of origin was roughly equivalent to a year on Earth. Eventually, the flower reached full maturity, releasing an intense fragrance before detaching from its stem. Luo Feng collected it and stored it carefully. Although the flower was highly beneficial for bloodline cultivation, he could not use it in that way because cultivators from the primordial cosmos relied on law comprehension rather than the bloodline cultivation method available to natives of the land of origin. After securing the flower, Luo Feng resumed his journey toward Huyang City, accompanied by Morosa and Moyu. Morosa revealed that he had gained considerable benefits from devouring the previous opponents and joked that repeating such opportunities 1,000 times might allow him to reach the primal chaos realm. Luo Feng dismissed the idea and told him to continue absorbing the abundant energy of heaven and earth instead. As they traveled through space, Luo Feng finally saw Huyang City in the distance. The city was unimaginably vast, with walls towering higher than any mountains he had seen since arriving in the land of origin. Even Duomo's enormous true body would be insignificant compared to the city walls. Moyu explained that Huyang City was one of only 3 major cities in Zhujiang Primal Chaos Prefecture and had been built upon primal chaos ruins through the combined efforts of mechanical school masters, making it an exceptionally stable fortress. As they drew closer to the East City Gate, Moyu pointed out 2 enormous structures floating above the city walls. One was a gigantic vine-covered plant representing the Vine Zhao Legion, while the other was a massive golden octahedron representing the Golden Jade Legion. Both belonged to Huyang City's 10 great legions, with countless true gods constantly entering and leaving these colossal military installations.